They thought she was dead, until she used their own radios to bring 6 SEALs home. Captain Elira Kade adjusted her uniform collar one final time before stepping into the most politically radioactive corridor of the Dominion Command Complex. The polished obsidian floors reflected cold fluorescent light, creating a warped mirror that stretched toward her destination room V817, the office of General Artan Reeve, a name spoken like a cipher across war rooms and black sites. Elira had heard the whispers from Akaris to Berlin. Reeve wasn't just old school, he was pre-digital warfare, a ghost from the analog age, molded by blood and secrets. He was infamous for his brutal, mind-bending evaluation-style tests disguised as idle chat, drills masked as psychological traps. Some called him brilliant, most called him lethal. Elira was certain he was both. The door bore a single engraved plate: General A. Reeve, Deputy Director, Intelligence Command. She knocked twice. The sound echoed like a gavel in a tomb. "Enter," came a gravel-scraped voice from inside. The room was exactly as imagined. Commendations on every wall. Photos of Reeve beside 5 different presidents. A glass case held a scorched field map from the siege of Falrath. And at the center, an obsidian desk that looked like it had been dropped here from orbit. Behind it sat Reeve, mid-60s, silver hair trimmed with surgical precision, eyes like gunmetal. Without looking up, Captain Kade, graduated Rindel with distinction, strategic intel, forward deployed in Baccarat and Tarsus, and then his voice slowed. One classified assignment. Location redacted even from Tier 3 access. He finally met her eyes. "Sit." Elira sat down, spine rigid against the leather chair's attempt to unseat her. Reeve flipped through her file, muttering sounds of approval, curiosity, and something colder. Then he paused. No photos, no social media, no digital trace. "You're either a ghost or someone erased you on purpose." The air thickened. "Tell me." "Captain," he said, snapping the file shut. "What separates a good intelligence officer from a great one?" Elira didn't blink. Pattern recognition, knowing when noise is just noise and when it's not. The wisdom to act, the restraint to wait. Reeve leaned back, a flicker of a smirk. Textbook. Then he stood, at the window. He stared out over the Rindel River, a silver vein of stillness cutting through concrete. In this line of work, everyone's probing everyone. Every glance is a test, every silence is bait. He turned. Gone was the instructor. In his place, a predator. The new generation. You think passing a psych eval makes you ready. You think war happens on screens. His voice sharpened. War is what's left when the cameras fail. Elira knew. The real test had begun. You watch movies about special ops and think you understand sacrifice. But only the hunted know what it really costs. Then it happened. Reeve's hand shifted at his side, subtle, but deliberate. Fingers curled into a casual shape. To most, it was nothing. But Elira's blood froze. A SEAL field signal. Enemy contact. Extraction needed. Classified. Buried. How did he know that A test A trap? She had a second, pretend not to know, stay silent, but instinct beat hesitation. Her left hand moved barely. A mirrored signal. Abort extraction. Mission compromised. No intel officer should know that. No civilian could even guess it existed. The ceramic mug in Reeve's hand shattered on the floor. But his eyes were locked on her hand, on the truth she couldn't take back. He stared as if he'd seen a ghost. His voice dropped. "Captain Kade, how in God's name do you know that signal?" The room had gone silent, but the message between them was deafening. Reeve's coffee mug shattered against the floor, but he didn't flinch. His stare was locked on Elira's hand like it had become a weapon. "Captain Kade," he said slowly. "How in God's name do you know that signal?" Elira didn't answer. Reeve moved like he'd touched a live wire. He backed behind his desk. fingers hovering over the secure phone. How he repeated, "Those hand signals are seal only. You shouldn't even recognize them." She sat still, heartbeat hammering. Her body remembered before her mind had time to filter the consequences. Reeve didn't wait. "This is Reeve. Level 0 lockdown. Full containment. Get OIS down here now." 3 minutes later, the door burst open, 2 armed MPs, and behind them a woman in civilian dress who moved like authority incarnate, Colonel Celeste Draven. She said, "Office of Intelligence Security." Reeve didn't greet her. He just pointed. She responded to a black compartment seal signal. No explanation. Draven's expression didn't change. She turned to Elira. "Captain, with me." They took her 3 levels down concrete walls. Biometric locks. No windows. The interrogation room smelled of cold steel and old lies. Draven sat across from her, tapped a recorder. Interview with Captain Elira Kade regarding possible compromise of Tier 6 protocols. She looked up. "You are advised this is being recorded. False statements are prosecutable under military law." Then it began. Draven didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "There's a 6-month gap in your record. No assignment listed. No commanding officer. No location. Why I was assigned to a joint intelligence fusion cell," Elira said evenly. "Details remain classified." Draven raised a brow. "We checked every fusion cell running during that period. You're not listed, even in off-book channels." Elira said nothing, not because she didn't want to speak, because she couldn't. Operational silence, the rule she'd sworn to uphold the day she buried her old identity. But that silence had a cost, with every unanswered question. The pressure built. They circled her history like wolves, pressing, probing, trying to find a seam. But she didn't break. "You're hiding something," Draven finally said. "The only question is who trained you to." Elira stared at the ceiling, heartbeat slowing. If she kept holding the line, they'd bury her. If she broke it, she'd betray everything. She took a breath. "If I hypothetically knew something beyond my clearance." She looked straight into Draven's eyes. "Who's the highest authority I can escalate to?" Draven hesitated. "Depends. Who gave you that knowledge?" Elira didn't blink. "Then you need to call Admiral Nolan Varel." A pause. "And tell him Silent Verity needs to come in from the cold." Elira held Draven's gaze. "Tell him Silent Verity needs to come in from the cold." The change was instant. Draven's confidence cracked like thin ice. She stood so fast her chair screeched backward. "What did you just say, Operation Silent Verity?" Elira repeated. "Admiral Varel will understand." Draven didn't argue. She reached for her encrypted sat phone. "This is Colonel Draven. I need Admiral Nolan Varel. Priority Alpha. Now." Then silence and pacing. The woman who had dissected Elira with surgical calm now looked genuinely unsettled. 23 minutes later, the door didn't open. It detonated. He didn't walk in. He arrived like a verdict. Admiral Nolan Varel, civilian clothes, gray hair, jaw set, eyes like locked vaults. He scanned the room, once Draven frozen. Elira hollowed out and his gaze locked on her. Recognition. Then relief. "Everyone out." He said, "Admiral." "This is still an active OIS investigation," Draven began. Varel cut her off. "You're standing in water deeper than your clearance can swim." The room emptied. Varel shut off the recorder and pulled a signal jammer from his coat. They were alone. He sat across from her. "Captain Elira Kade," he said slowly. "Or should I say, Kade Mercer, international correspondent for Horizon Global News." She hadn't heard that name in years. Her breath caught. "I wasn't sure you'd remember me." "Remember," he almost smiled. "Kade, what you did in Kareth Province is etched into my spine." He leaned in. "But why the hell are you sitting in an OIS black room?" She told him everything Reeve's signal test. The interrogation. Varel's jaw tightened with every detail. They nearly detonated a 4-year op. He muttered, "Did you break silence?" "No, sir." I held the line. Good, because what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. He paused. Operation Silent Verity was born after the Al-Murad attack. Intelligence flagged chatter 5 near-simultaneous strikes on U.S. embassies, a scale of destruction unlike anything seen in the post-9/11 world. Elira felt her throat close. They'd gone dark. Varel continued. No phones, no funds, just couriers. They could smell agents a mile away. That's why you used me, Elira said. A journalist, not just any. One with instinct, with access. Who could ask questions and disappear behind a byline? He looked at her. We didn't expect you to become one of them. Images flashed black site training, memorizing field signals, earning the trust of SEALs who didn't want her there, especially Chief Rourke. He hated me, she said softly, until he didn't. You earned that team, Varel said. You lived the mission, and when it went to hell, you did what no one else could. You got them out. She didn't respond, but in her mind, she could still hear the final call from that broken radio. We're surrounded. Birds down. We're not making it out. And still, she hadn't run. You could have kept your cover, Varel said. Nobody would have blamed you. But I didn't. Elira replied quietly. After the ambush, with the SEAL team scattered and their comms fried, she hijacked the enemy's own relay rig half-burned, barely functional. She patched together fragments of their network, rerouted signals, and began feeding them false intel while masking U.S. troop movements. No backup, no green light, just her, a cracked terminal, and 6 lives depending on instincts she barely had time to learn. Elira mimicked their call signs, twisted their chatter, and when the window finally opened, she guided Chief Rourke's team to safety one silent signal at a time. You turned their network into a ghost maze, Varel said. They chased shadows. You carved a hole in the dark. She said nothing. Her mind had gone back, dust in her lungs, blood on her hands. Then the sound that still haunted her Bravo team accounted for. We're coming home. Varel exhaled. After that, you were burned. They saw your face. Elira nodded. So you erased me. Cade Mercer died in a car bombing outside Velcora. No body. Just a passport and a staged press badge. And just like that, the journalist disappeared. Elira returned reassigned, redacted, sealed behind 8 layers of clearance. The story was over. But Varel's tone darkened. Now, Silent Verity may not be safe in the dark anymore. He leaned closer. The attack you disrupted wasn't just local. One of the payloads they had was intended for use on soil. Estimated casualties devastating. Elira's breath hitched. She hadn't known that part. Why didn't I know? Because back then, need to know meant staying alive, but that's changed. He stood, pacing, 3 months ago. Chatter picked up again. Same network rebuilding, and they're looking for one person, a ghost, a journalist, you. Her voice lowered. They're hunting me. Varel nodded. And anyone tied to that op, including the SEALs you saved. He looked her dead in the eye. Your memory of SEAL protocol isn't just sensitive, it's a beacon. Her mind raced Rourke, the pilot, even the comms tech who scrubbed their tracks, all exposed, all because of what she carried. What do you want me to do? Step into the light, declassify what we can, put you under joint task protection, and use what you know before they do? A sharp knock interrupted them. Draven entered, no longer sharp, but cautious. Admiral General Reeve and the Secretary are on a secure line. They want a full briefing. Varel turned to Elira. This next hour decides everything. You ready? She stood, as I'll ever be. However, the operation required the participation of an embedded asset whose identity had to remain classified for national security. Admiral Nolan Varel paused, letting silence draw the shape of Elira's sacrifice. General Artan Reeve leaned forward. Captain Elira Kade was that asset. He didn't say operative, didn't say tool. He said asset with weight. She volunteered for infiltration, operated under false identity, trained in black site protocols, and coordinated with a Tier 1 SEAL team using field hand signals learned in 2 weeks. Varel's voice was sharp, but respectful. Her performance exceeded every metric on the secure feed. Secretary Dorian Hale studied Elira. "Captain, why didn't you disclose this in interrogation?" She stood tall, not defensive, just precise. "Sir, I was bound by operational silence. Disclosing prematurely would have compromised not just protocol but lives, a beat. I broke that silence only when the greater breach became imminent." Director Ulrich Vane from Intelligence leaned forward. "Admiral, threat assessment." Varel's face darkened. "Critical. Remnants of the original terror network have reactivated. They're hunting the person they believe collapsed their entire infrastructure. To them, she's not a captain. She's the ghost journalist, their white whale." He looked at Elira, and she's still the most valuable asymmetric operator we've got. The room fell silent. Then General Patricia Hawkins, chair of the Joint Chiefs, broke it, "Admiral. Your recommendation, assign Captain Kade to a new joint task force, Deep CT Ops. Her skills can't be duplicated, and we don't have the luxury of starting from scratch." Secretary Hale turned to Reeve. The man who once tried to break her now looked her in the eye. Captain Kade held a redacted past through an interrogation built to fracture loyalty. She passed. A pause. "I support the assignment." The next morning, no cameras, no transcript. Just Admiral Varel, Colonel Draven, General Reeve, and one figure leaning against the wall with folded arms, Chief Mason Rourke. He didn't speak. He moved, and wrapped her in a bear hug that almost knocked her flat. "Damn. Doc, didn't think we'd ever see you topside again." Elira laughed for the first time in days. Still ugly. Chief still breathing. His smile softened. "Thanks to you." Then, serious again. "You ready to come back into the fire?" Before she could answer, Admiral Varel stepped forward. In his hands, a black velvet box. "Captain Elira Kade," he said. "Formal now, by order of the Secretary of Defense, and approved by the President." He opened it. A bronze cross, blue and white ribbon, the Navy Cross. Elira froze. She couldn't breathe. "For extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations against an armed enemy," Varel said, pinning it to her chest. "This award remains classified. Citation sealed. Operation buried." He lowered his voice. "But make no mistake, history changed because of you. You just won't find your name in any chapter." General Reeve stepped up. "Captain." He hesitated, then said it plainly. "Yesterday, I tried to break you. Turns out I uncovered a national asset." She nodded. Not bitter, just whole. Even Colonel Draven extended a hand. 15 years in intel. Never seen operational silence held like that. You didn't just follow orders, you lived the mission. As the room cleared, Chief Rourke stayed behind. "Doc," he said, digging into his jacket. "Got something. A worn, battered challenge coin. The kind SEALs never give lightly. This was Navarro's. You kept him calm when we were trapped. He wanted you to have it." Elira turned it in her palm. It felt heavier than the Navy Cross. "Where is he now, Chief?" "2 kids. San Diego. Still talks about the ghost who saved his life." Rourke's voice dipped low. "What you did wasn't just tactical. You took care of us. You became one of us. And SEALs don't forget their own." That evening, Elira stepped out into the golden light outside Dominion Command. The Navy Cross glinted on her chest. Not a medal. A truth finally allowed to breathe. She was no longer a redacted file. No longer just a ghost. She was Silent Verity. The woman who walked through war without backup. who saved 6 men with no weapon but knowledge and vanished so the world could sleep one more night. Tomorrow, she'd vanish again. New name, new target. But tonight, for the first time in 4 years, she walked in the open, and every room she entered stood